Pizza time!
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Cowabunga! Fire! Hang on, April. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I remember hearing that for the first time as a kid and went absolutely crazy as I followed the sound to see this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at my local pizza place. Of course, they only had the two-player version, but today I am very glad to review this four-player.
Cowabunga!
After setting foot, pun intended, at my local pizza place as a kid in 1989, and hearing that theme song made me rush directly to the arcade section of that restaurant. Seeing a two-player TMNT arcade game with, of course, the intro intact and the graphics that just blew my mind, which at that time was growing up with just Nintendo games. So seeing this huge jump in graphics compared to an 8-bit home console definitely made me want to spend every quarter that I could beg or borrow from my parents. I'm glad to tell you today that both games, TMNT the arcade and TMNT 2 the Turtles in Time, come home intact, barring the first 30 seconds of the first game when it comes to the theme song, as Arcade 1-Up could not get the original license to use it. The graphics for this first game, the gameplay, fairly simple. Attack, jump, press both buttons together, and you release a special attack. Unfortunately, the special attack is the same for all four turtles. They're pretty much the same, except for there are some difference in regards to attack speed and hitbox reach. This first game is a little cheaper. There are times when I'm pressing attack and it doesn't quite line up with the enemy. So there are times when you feel like there's a cheap shot, so to speak.
Cowabunga!
And of course, the first game was a huge hit. So, to no one's surprise, 2 years later, Konami released the sequel in 1991, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Turtles in Time. If I had to choose, I would say that this one is definitely my favorite. If I had to choose between the two, the first one is my favorite in regards to nostalgia, especially capturing the feel of the show. But when it comes to the gameplay, the graphics, the animation, and sound, I do have to say that the sequel is actually my favorite. In the 2 years that Konami spent after the first game, they focused on graphics, sound, music, and gameplay. Definitely an improvement over the first game. Especially in the gameplay department, the hitboxes feel a bit more crisp. Not fighting game crisp, but definitely better than the original. There were definitely times in the first game where I would attack an enemy and it would somehow just miss by a frame or so, and I would get hit instead. So fortunately, I'm glad they definitely focused on this, along with some of the extra graphical flourishes like throwing the foot soldier or even just your enemy music into the screen itself. There are of course extra sound effects and animation, as I mentioned, bringing some other characters from the TV show, which at that time, of course, increased in their roster. So again, this is my favorite gameplay-wise versus the original. Plus, they made the characters just a little bit bigger and added in some extra frames of animation. Still, it still controls and plays the same. Still an attack button, a jump button, and of course a joystick. As a Turtles fan, I definitely recommend this Arcade 1-Up. This is their third version, or third release, when it comes to the Machine series, and that includes improvements such as stereo speakers, a better LCD, and the vinyl controls exactly the same as far as quality. They're not actual Sanwa or HAP, they're basically just clones, but they do the job very well. The buttons were very responsive, they didn't feel mushy at all, and easy to recommend And even now, you can even find this at Costco, Walmart. Some even have lit marquees. So again, thanks for watching this quick review. Please like and subscribe.
Thank you, my turtles.